Welcome to Be Now for Tuesday, March 14th today. This is Don McLeod, and I'm joined by Fazal Khan, as usual. Faz, how's it going?
I'm good, Don. How are you?
Good. March 14th already, and it's like we're expecting maybe more snow on Friday, which is great. So,
it's Pi Day, and it's also bright at 6:30. When was the last time we saw the sun at 6:30?
Yep, it's getting lighter as the days go on. All we got to do is get into the warmer temperatures, and I'll be happy. I think March 14th last year, there was absolutely no snow on the ground.
But we had a lot of snow during the season, and it was cold.
Well, it's still cold out there, and there's snow on the ground. I'd like to, hurry things up here. You know what I mean?
Don, we live in Canada, right? You should be accustomed to the weather here. Me, on the other hand.
Yeah, the older you get, the more you hate snow. You know that, eh?
Yes. Okay, so on the show today, Don.
Yes.
We're going to talk about grocery stores.
Yep.
I don't know if you've been to a grocery store lately, but prices are on their way up. So we're going to talk about a new limit we heard about from Darshan Maharaja, who's a regular contributor on the show and on social media. We're going to talk about maybe some strategies to cope, some strategies from you, from me, from some people that gave me some advice today because I asked. And then a new section, a new segment. Unfortunately, there's a lot of content for this segment, so I don't want to do it too often, but it's called Racism Review. There's a lot of incidents that happened in the past couple days even that we probably should go through. But let's start with the grocery stores, Don.
All right, grocery stores. So who does the shopping in your household, Faz?
We both kind of do it. I do most of the grocery store stuff. My wife does the meat. She goes to a meat store for...
You buy meat? You can afford meat?
Yep. Yes, we can. Chicken mostly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we all know that the grocery store owners, Gale and Weston, and who was the other one from Sobeys? It slips in my mind right now. But they were called to Ottawa Parliamentary Committee to talk about the rising costs. There's inflation, but there's also the costs are outpacing inflation by a wide margin. So the CEOs were brought to Ottawa to explain the situation on why and all the profits and from what I heard so far, there's not, any kind of end result on this. It's still ongoing as far as I know. They were talking about several factors, they said, that beyond their control. And most of their profits are coming from things other than groceries that are sold in the stores, not the groceries themselves, which if anyone's gone shopping, they'll see the cost of, let's say, a head of lettuce, $2.99. Right now, you go in and it's probably $4.99, right? So that's from $2.99 to $4.99 is not the rate of inflation, right? Which is around 7-8%. So the costs of everything have risen. You're talking about meat, absolutely 100%, right? There was a thing on social media where chicken breasts at Loblaws or PC, whatever you want to call it, President's Choice I think it was like $100 for chicken breasts. And one of the reasons PC came back and said, well, it's, they were, what were
organic and
the organic and free range and blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh my God. And then somebody posted a thing of a rib roast or something like that. It was $100. So we all know meat has gone up.
But you know what? I don't want to put the blame on the grocery store chains, although clearly they're making more profit because I think their prices have gone up. So as a percentage, their profit is going to go up. Not as a percentage, but as a gross amount. And well, my argument is you don't have to buy that $100 chicken breast.
No, you don't.
Right?
Absolutely not. But at the same time, take a look at, there's something called shrinkflation, right? Now, this is something that's been going on for quite a while, but only recently have people taken a look at it and said, oh, let me weigh that package that says it's supposed to be 250 grams. And they go online and they weigh it. It's 200 grams. It's not 250. That's false advertising. Right.
Yeah, so that's an issue. That's just fraud right out.
Absolutely, 100%. So you're paying for stuff, and and I know, like my wife, she buys things and she'll open it up and say, before it used to be right to the top level, now it's even lower, right? So and I know.
Yeah, and packaging sizes have gone smaller, but it's the same price. So that's another way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you buy a bag of, let's say, nacho chips or something like that, right? Right past the level, and then how much is there, right? And packaging has been one of my pet peeves for years and years and years, because they're talking about plastic recycling and lowering the use and so on and so forth. But the grocery store chains, I mean, they increase the size of these things so they look big, but there's less stuff in there. That should be, dealt with on a one-to-one as well. So,
but again, I come back to it. There's staples that we all,
yeah,
I wouldn't even say need, right? You don't need as much milk as I think we drink. You don't need as much cheese. You definitely don't need as much bread. You don't need as much orange juice. You definitely need fruits and vegetables, but you don't need to get the expensive stuff, right? There's also the frozen section.
Well,
so there's ways of coping.
Orange juice is a perfect example, because if you go in, you'll get a ready-made orange juice thing, right? And it's like, what is it? $4.99, $5.99, $7.99. Go to the frozen aisle, you pick up the same thing in a can that you mix with water for $1.49. Right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's much different, right?
No, it's frozen concentrated orange juice.
Even the one that's not concentrated, it was a Tropicana. I remember seeing a documentary about them way back, and it's not concentrated, but it's not exactly fresh off the vines.
No, but you can buy frozen concentrated orange juice. It's like, if you don't want to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, buy the frozen, because the frozen lasts longer, and it's the same thing. You're not losing any nutritional value.
Well, in fact, I've heard that the frozen stuff, the nutritional content is actually captured in the fruit.
Yeah, because it's flash frozen. It's like frozen fish, right? If you don't want to buy fresh fish, buy the frozen and just unthawed, or throw it into a stew, because you know what? It's probably fresher, right?
So my point is, it's the consumer in control here. Yes. Don't buy the stuff that clearly you're being ripped off on, and only buy the stuff that's either on sale or that you really need, right? And then the grocery store will realize, right? But if people keep buying, the expensive stuff because they're not looking at pricing, whatever, well, it's just going to get more expensive, right? I believe in when it comes to for kind of commodity things like that at the grocery store, it's supply and demand.
Absolutely, supply and demand, because I've noticed one thing: potatoes really haven't gone down or gone up that much. I can still buy a bag of potatoes, 10-pound bag of potatoes, for like, anywhere from $3.99 to $5.99, right? Yeah. So that's within, normally, that's what they range. Celery, I went in the other day, it's like $5.99 for a stalk of celery, and I'm like, guys, come on. Right, this in the summertime, $1.99, 99 cents, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, consumer buying power. A lot of people buy frozen food, like wings and this and that and everything else. You can make your own wings. It's a little bit more, but it's like, it's time consuming, right? So people look at time and quickness and ease of things, and they weigh one to the other, right? And that's
and you can also buy a whole chicken instead of just the chicken breast.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the limit. And this is Darshan again. He posted this online, and he tagged both you and I, and we were like shocked how many people were responding.
Yeah, it's a big time. It was
and what he's saying, his local grocery store put a limit on the number of items you're allowed to go through the self-checkout with. And he was asking, why would they do that? Why do you think, Don?
Well, I mean, you get all sorts of comments about, people, there was theft involved in this and that and everything else. I don't know the real reason. I do know the reason that the grocery stores put in the self-checkout was, well, we're going to put in the self-checkout because it's going to be quicker and faster and easier for the consumer. And we all know it was an attempt, basically, or still is an attempt, to eliminate cashiers. But now they're saying, oh, well, let's say it's theft, right? So let's say the big problem is theft. People are maybe putting stuff into their bags before they even, run it through the scanning thing. Well, the store was the first one to put that in for a particular reason and save money for them. Now they're saying, well, now we've got to limit you to 25 items because there's theft. Well, that's their problem, right? It's like, and the big problem I see on the cashiers is, so let's say there's 6 aisles open up. There's only 2 cashiers. So you're basically getting into a longer lineup, and they're not actually staffing the cashier lines. And then they're limiting you to the self-checkout thing. So it's they're the ones that instituted it, but they didn't think it out. And now they're forcing you to go back and deal with the problem.
Well, but at the same time, I've seen people with the big, ginormous shopping carts trying to go through the self-checkout, and there's no place to put your stuff at a certain point. And then every third item, it's like they're having an issue. They got to call the person over. And then you got kids, climbing all over the place. So there are people that abuse the self-checkout for people that just want to get through there quickly. But at the same time, I don't like using those big shopping carts. First of all, it's just most of the time just me and my wife in the house now because all the kids are gone. I don't need to. There's no way I can ever fill a shopping cart anymore, right? So either the small one or the basket. I can never find either.
Well, I'll put it this way: when I grew up, my mother used to go shopping, or the family used to go shopping almost every day for the food that night or the next morning. Nowadays, people like I don't know how much you spend on groceries. Somebody told me they had like 2 kids and whatever, and they were spending over $500 a week on groceries, and I'm like, what? That's a mortgage payment.
Yeah, and I'm sure like I've done the online grocery shopping, and it's more expensive, but you don't buy the stuff you shouldn't buy, right? When I go to the grocery store, yeah, I'll buy the sale stuff and I'll choose, but I ended up putting more stuff in there, especially if I used to go with my kids, more stuff and bad stuff, right? All the junk food that you shouldn't be putting in your shopping cart. And,
Well,
and Karen said, she used to hate going through it, but now she's a pro. I agree, right? I like packing my own because I now have my own reusable container and I know how to pack it properly, so it's easy to handle. I want too big, heavy. Uh, it's the square Loblaws version I
yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah.
If those things are too heavy, it's like it's a pain to get to your car. So yeah, I go more frequently now. I only go. For the necessities. I try not to buy the junk. Every once in a while, a bag of chips will go in there that shouldn't be going in there. But even Lay's potato chips, I know there was an issue with Loblaws because their Lay's was charging they couldn't come up with the deal. But
Yeah,
I have not bought Lay's potato chips in a long time because it's $4.99 for a regular sized bag. That is nuts for a bag of potato chips.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I grew up, it was like 5 cents for a Coke and 10 cents for a bag of chips. I mean, and they were a hell of a lot bigger than what they are now. But has the price of chips? I mean, we're talking potatoes that are deep fried, and then canola oil and so on and so forth, right? But I guess the costs are associated in all sorts of things: the trucking, the fuel, the labor costs, everything else. But
at the same time, there's the PC brand that's cheaper, and then there's the no-name brand that's I think you can still get a bag of chips for 99 cents. Why is it Lay's is charging $4.99 for theirs?
Yeah, well,
and whoever's buying Lay's, you're contributing to this problem. Just don't buy Lay's, and you'll see the price go down.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when what was it, Heinz or French's ketchup? Yeah. They were pulling out of Canada, and they said, you know what, buy Canadian and stuff like that. So the consumer, sometimes doesn't realize what a big role that it could play in actually bringing the prices down. If they don't buy produce, the produce goes bad, or it gets thrown out, or it goes to, maybe some food banks and so on and so forth. But this all has to be bought preemptively, right? You can't like just buy these things on a regular basis. These orders have to go, and they're months out on a regular basis through a supply chain. So if you don't buy it sits on the shelf. Sooner or later, it's going to go on sale.
Yeah, and do keep an eye on your on what you're paying, especially if I try to buy sales stuff, because I'd say 3 times out of 5 there's a mistake. I'll go to the customer service desk and I'll get the product for free. I can't tell you how many times, Don, that happens to me, and because I pay attention, and the only reason I'm buying a product is because it's on sale. So if you charge me the full price, well, it's your fault, not my fault.
Yeah, and buying stuff on sale is a great way to go, because I mean, if you go every day, which I do, I'll just go to I don't even know what I'm going to have for dinner tomorrow. I'll go to the grocery store, see what's on sale, and I'll make something out for it, right?
So one of the strategies for coping with the rising prices is to plan, Don. Is to plan.
I don't plan.
Plan your meals.
I plan them the day I'm actually buying them, and I plan it based on what's on sale at the grocery store. So I'll give you an example. I'll walk in, I'll see chicken breasts on sale. I'll buy the chicken breasts, and I'll do something with them, right? If I go the next day and there's shrimp on sale, I'll pull the shrimp out and I'll make a shrimp pasta or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's what a freezer is.
You could go through the flyers on Sunday and know that the shrimps will be on sale.
That's if I got flyers. We live in Brampton. The Guardian is never, ever delivered anywhere.
Okay. Well, okay. I'll have to agree with you on that, Don.
Okay. All right. So anyway, shopping smart is basically, one way to do it. I don't understand people who go to Costco and buy like 48,000 rolls of toilet paper. It's like, you know what? I just don't get it.
Yeah, and use Flip. If you don't know what Flip is, you just install on your phone. It'll tell you search for whatever you're buying, and especially a lot of grocery stores still do price matching. So if you find it cheaper somewhere else, you can at the store you're at, you can get it for that price. Or if you do a little bit of planning, like one of the things me and my wife get is sockeye salmon, in the canned sockeye salmon.
Yeah.
And that inflation on that, it used to be like $2.99 for a can. Now it's like $5.99 for a can, but sometimes it comes down to $3.99 a can. That's a significant savings if you're buying 4 cans, right?
Yep.
And so what Flip, that can really help with stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So and all of us have to be price conscious, because it'll keep prices in check. And I see Darshan is on board. Thanks for joining us, Darshan, because we got a segment a little later that we're going to talk about a recent tweet that you were the victim of.
Yep.
So let's move on to the next section, Don, is a racism review. I didn't create a glitzy banner here, but, maybe I will. Let's see what kind of reaction we get to it. So the first slide I want to show everybody is a recent post by Brian Lilly. As you know, this ties in with our previous segment, the federal government basically brought in some of the CEOs of the grocery stores. And so let me put that back up. So Jagmeet Singh was questioning, I think, the CEO of Loblaws, and Brian Lilly tweeted this. I'm not going to read it for you. You guys can read it yourself. But basically, he was commenting on the color of Jagmeet Singh's turban. And I saw the reactions to this. And, I got every once in a while, I got to, why is somebody like Brian Lilly, a so-called journalist in Canada, even tweeting this? Like, what is the benefit? And then there's these guys they know what they're doing. And then a lot of his followers say, well, what's racist about this? This is 100% racist. This is the definition of racism. If you don't think this is racist, chances are you are a racist. I'm going to just come out and say that. Right? If you're commenting on the religious clothing of somebody else in a negative way, or putting connotations around it that there aren't any, I got to say, chances are you're a racist.
Yeah, let's put it into another perspective. Let's say the Pope was, going to, I don't know, some event, and he decided to change his little papal hat a different color, and then somebody, commented like Brian Lilly, oh, the Pope has got, the red hat for, blah blah blah, something, right? You think that would go over well?
No,
I don't think so either.
But I don't think people like me or Jagmeet are Brian Lilly's base, right, of followers. So,
I mean, that's the whole thing. But the point is, it's like, you know what, guys, like, take it to another context, to another religion. Would you insult the Pope like that? Would you insult the Dalai Lama? He's wearing green today. Oh, he's an
and it's not that we're trying to compare Jagmeet to the Dalai Lama or to the Pope.
Of course not. But I mean, it's a religious symbol for, that he's, obviously very proud of his.
Well, it's not even a religious symbol, Don, because the next segment we're talking about Muslims. It's a way of life. It's like anybody who's wears a turban. It's not a symbol. It's what I do.
I mean, the way he wears his turban though is like a warrior type thing. There's different ways to wear a turban.
But again, I've never seen Jagmeet without a turban.
No, absolutely, 100%. Right? He can wear whatever he wants. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. It's like some Christian wearing a big cross or like this. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, right?
Yeah. Okay. So as you may know, next week is Ramadan.
Yep.
And for Muslims, that's a whole month of fasting from the dawn
dawn till dusk, right?
Thank you, Don. Yep. Dawn till dusk for the full month. And so there were a couple of tweets I want to show everybody in terms of what people think about Islam in Canada. So this poll came out. I think it's from Angus Street. Yeah. And I'm not 100% sure what the numbers here mean, but it's a relative thing. I think 0 means neutral. So there was a poll done on the favorable view of Islam. And so they had to separate out the poll from Canada and Quebec. So these results are without Quebec. And I'm thinking -4% means it's relatively neutral. I could be wrong. But if you look at the comparisons, the Liberal Party obviously has more people that have a favorable view of it. And the Conservatives have a negative view. And as you can see, the PPC party are just, they hate us all, right? They hate every single Muslim. And then if you look at Quebec, obviously, you know, you don't even have to know much, but Quebec is going to be worse, right?
Yeah.
So they have a negative view of Islam. And, you know, to me, one of the reasons is because we've allowed Bill 21 to just fester without anybody doing anything about it, right? Every single party, none of them are doing anything about Bill 21. And so, you know, we run into a situation where this racism, this pure racism, is tolerated. And so, you know, let's go local now. So I think this was yesterday. That's today.
Yesterday, I think. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So Darshan, who have I, as I said, as you know, I think if you watch our program regularly, you know Darshan, and if you're online, you know Darshan. So Darshan is a big advocate for cleaning up the water at our First Nations, for our First Nations people, and I think this person was basically claiming that lead from Asia in the air is coming and contaminating our water, and that's who to blame. And so Darshan has given an articulate response as to that's not the case. It doesn't make any sense. And so this is the kind of response he gets, right? And again, I'm not going to read this for you, but this is, you know, I grew up in the 70s.
Number one, Del should learn how to spell, because, you know, his second word there is like, you know.
You know, so if you think this is a one-off comment, it is not. I've lived in Canada since I was a kid in the 70s. I've had lots of incidents that I could go on and on about. And I'm not surprised that these comments are still out there. But, you know, so we have to respond to it on a regular basis. Otherwise, we allow it. And so I responded to that and basically correct them. It's no longer called Bombay. It's called Mumbai for a lot of good reasons. And in terms of Brampton, I said, get used to it, because we are the future of what the rest of Canada is going to be, right? Diverse and accepting and equitable and values everybody. And we don't put down anybody. And if you looked at the Junos last night, Don, there were a lot of people from Brampton representing our city and representing us across Canada and doing it well. And I'm proud to be in Brampton. And, you know, next 10 or 20 years, I think you're going to see great things coming out of Brampton.
Well, you know, the last sentence he's got there, you have nothing that Canada needs. Really? So, Del, what are you actually contributing to the fabric of Canadian society other than a stupid comment?
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
so
and
that
there's a lot of them. Like, you know, we talked about it before. We talked about how Twitter has become this sort of, you know, toxic medium that, you know, a lot of people are drawn to, and they're using it as a platform for basically hate and intolerance, right? And, you know, we talked about Facebook, you know, the other day we were talking, saying Facebook is losing, you know, a lot of its shine and a lot of its luster and a lot of its following, because basically when you go on there, there's nothing relevant, right? There's no intellectual sort of cross member talk.
I think they've effectively segregated people, and now nobody
absolutely 100%
have able to have good conversations.
Yeah, so it's become, you know, and Twitter's almost become that too over time, where you got that toxic atmosphere, and it's like, you know, you've got the trolls, you've got people like this who, you know, basically are given a platform, and for some reason the platform for them, it's legitimizing them when it shouldn't, right? It should not be. It's like if I know that there was the cops were basically, they arrested someone for, what was it? Students phoning in or doing threats to the school. And somebody mentioned, well, why don't you do the same when people are doing threats on social media?
Or threats against women, and that goes unprosecuted, right?
Exactly. So it's like, you know, there's a whole bunch of people out there, and it seems to be drawing more and more. It's funny, I read you a thing today in Calgary. There was a motion put forward by Calgary City Council that they're debating apparently today or tomorrow or tonight about banning demonstrations outside of City Hall against city councilors. And I'm like, wait a second. That's what basically democracy is, the ability to be able to go and demonstrate. That is one of the fundamental cornerstones of democracy. And
I
here's
wonder who tabled that motion, Don. Could it be somebody who's being
yeah, maybe a city councilor that maybe is doing something bad and is drawing the ire of people because he's doing something, right?
yeah.
So just
But there
that
is a line.
motion.
There is a line that can be crossed. But passing a bylaw to specifically say you can't protest against a councillor, there's probably other thing. There's probably an underlying reason why that person or the council wants to pass that. But passing a bylaw is not going to solve the problem. There's an underlying root cause there that needs to be addressed, and it's probably criminal. Some of the things that are going on behind the scenes for them to want to take this action. But it goes back to social media as well, right? I believe that everybody on social media should have an authenticated account, so there's accountability. Like the threats that were made to the schools last week. The platform should have some liability when things like that, right? It is too easy to create an account and broadcast to millions of people threats like that. It should not be that easy, Don.
Absolutely, and the funny part was if you watched 60 Minutes last week, because I loved watching 60 Minutes, they were talking about how Facebook is doing AI now, right? So they're generating AI, and they're going to be releasing that where you've got this artificial intelligence that can basically have a conversation with. And what they did was they launched it, but basically what happened was there was the AI took over and they were making comments against this other person, and it was like almost threatening. And the CEO was talking about it. He's like, well, it's still in the advanced or the embryonic stages, and we're still developing it. And, Leslie Stahl, I think, asked, well, do you think it's reasonable that it should be put out right now? And he's like, well, yeah, there's going to be glitches, but those glitches can affect a lot of people in a lot of ways. And they were talking about the AI where it was you type in something and say, I want to make a bomb. And the AI would say, okay, well, you're not supposed to know that. So we're going to redo the question. And it's going to be, well, we can't let that information go. But did you know that 3% of the ice in the Antarctica is caused by penguins peeing? And Leslie Stahl went, okay, well, that's an interesting fact. Let me check that out. So she checked it out and went, that's not true. And that came through the AI. So they just made it up.
The problem with AI is that you feed it data, and the data
Right.
Facebook is probably feeding it is all the junk on Facebook, and it doesn't. I can't discern between fact and fiction.
Exactly, and that's what they were saying. So they're releasing this out, into the public before they've even gone through it. So right now you're getting a lot of junk on social media. Now you're going to get even more, and it's going to be wrong. And it's going to feed all these people with conspiracy theories and everything else. And they're going to say, look, I found it on Google. I found it on this. It must be true.
Yeah. Now, talking about AI, we're going off track here, and we got a couple minutes. I listened to the live stream of from OpenAI. They had a live stream on GPT, which is the underlying technology for Chat GPT. So they were showing some of the features of the new version. I'm blown away, Don. This is moving so fast. And I'm a computer engineer, and I can't keep up with this. It's scary good, and I don't know what the future is going to look like. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of issues with self-driving AI in the wintertime because it can't discern between a white truck in the snow background, and there's huge challenges with that. So in certain areas, I think AI is going to just change the world, but in other areas that they've been predicting, which is self-driving vehicles, that's not happening in Canada anytime soon.
Well, there's pros and cons, and at this point in time with the AI that I talked about, there's more cons than pros, right?
Now, I agree.
Where's the gatekeepers on stuff like that? Because we talked about
and some of the cons, Don, are in terms of jobs, right? Because some of the abilities of especially on the GPT side are just mind-blowing good.
Yeah. But at the same time, like we talked about Twitter and the racist comments and stuff like that, if there's no gatekeeper, and I'm sorry, but you know what? Some people say, well, there's freedom. There should be no gatekeepers. You should say whatever you want. No, I'm sorry. There's got to
be
be
consequences. You can say whatever you want.
And that's the whole point of the exercise. If you're going to have no consequences, you're going to have nothing. Like it's going to be a wide open West, and people can say whatever they want without no repercussion. That's not what it should be.
Yeah. On that note, Don, Have a good. We're not going to be, but we're not going to be on next.
We're not going to be next Tuesday because we're both doing something that we're working on, a project. So we will be busy doing that. Just a quick before we left, we did attend Andrew DeGroot's final funeral today. It was actually very good. It was a celebration of his life, and it was good. It was.
And I think if Andrew was in the audience, he would have loved it.
Yeah, William Vollner did a very good job doing the ceremony as well. So there's a lot of people there that appreciated Andrew and his contributions to the city and his love for the city. So thank you, Andrew, and let what is it? What's let Flights of Angels sing thee to thy rest. William
On that
Shakespeare.
note, Don, have a good week.
You too. Thank you.